Good evening, everyone. Good evening. It is 7 o'clock. I am going to give it a few more moments to let everyone jump in. But as you join, please drop your cities and states where you're joining from. All right. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome from Texas. What's the weather like there in Texas? I can tell you here in Georgia, it is blazing. We were out yesterday with my son for his first football game, and I almost passed out. That heat was something serious. No, I don't like to be cold, so I haven't found a happy medium between the cold and the hot. All right, I'm gonna give it a few more minutes, about another minute or so. Uh, oh wow, 100. That's the regular heat, not with like it feels like. Good evening, good evening, good evening, Crafty Zone Studio. Where are you hailing from this evening? KO. Hmm. Oh, okay, you're here in Georgia too, enjoying our wonderful heat. So we are going to get started. Welcome to class number 5 of the DTF Success Series. This is our last class of the season. So if you've been with me since class 1, first of all, I want to give yourself some credit because we have covered a lot. We started with choosing the right DTF path before you spent money. Then we talked about what you actually need to get started, how to order, evaluate your first transfers. And in our last class, we talked about what goes into successfully pressing your first shirt. But now we have to answer the question that eventually comes up after all that learning and practicing. How do I start moving towards my first sale? And that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get started, hey girl, hey, how are you? Before we get started, now grab your paper, your pen, your pencil, your crayon, whatever you have nearby, because I want you taking some notes today. And make sure you stay with me until the end because we'll have another giveaway. But you already know how this works. You have to pay attention because I'm getting the answers right from what we talk about in class. So let me share my screen. In the chat if you can see my screen. And for those that this is your first class with me, I want to welcome you. I'm Kenyatta, the owner of Purposely Crafted. Now, just as a little quick recap, I didn't start this business knowing exactly what I was doing. I learned by trying things, making mistakes, buying a whole lot of things I didn't need, and figuring out what works, and sometimes figuring out what absolutely did not work. And that's really why I created this series. I wanted beginners to have some information I wish I had when I was getting started, so you can make better choices as you build. But before we get into today's class, I need to check on my class 4 people. Your challenge was to take what you learned and create a test shirt if you had the equipment available. So, anyone that's here was in class 4, anyone do that? Just checking in. We may just have newbies on the class today. And if you did, how did it go? Did anything surprise you? Did you run into any problems? And most importantly, did you test your press, whatever garment you press? And if you weren't here, I want you to be able to go back and look at classes 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you did do the homework, I want to see it. Take a picture of your finished shirt or whatever substrate you use and tell me about your experience. And if you don't have a heat press yet, you're not behind. I still want you here because today's class is about understanding where you're headed next. All right, so today's objective, by the end of today's class, I want you to understand the steps that take you from practicing DTF to preparing for your first sale and what you should have in place before you start accepting a customer's order. I'm not promising you that you're going to leave this class tonight and magically wake up tomorrow with 10 orders. What I want you to leave with is an understanding of what needs to happen between I know how to make this and someone paid me for this. Does that make sense? All right, let's get going. So today we're going to walk through the actual steps between practicing and making the first real sale. So step 1 was practice. You're going to make and test. Step 2, you're going to choose one product, just one. Step 3 is know your numbers. It's the cost. Step 4, order, and that is making it easy for your customers. Yes, that is the dream. Wake up with 10 orders tomorrow. Step 5, visibility, show your work. Step 6, offer, invite people to buy your work. And number 7, the process, handle the yes. All right. So are you ready to stop practicing and be ready because being ready doesn't mean that you know everything. So we're going to start with the first question. How do you know when you're ready to stop practicing and start thinking about selling? Being ready doesn't mean you know everything, because if that's the standard, girl, we would be practicing until 2037. But in reality, ready looks like this. There's always going to be another technique that you could learn, another product you can make, another piece of equipment you could buy, and another video you could watch. At some point, learning has to turn into doing. There's a difference between I made one and I'm comfortable charging some money for one. Notice what isn't on the list. I didn't say you need a DTF printer. I didn't say you need 100 shirt colors. I didn't say you need every piece of equipment someone showed you on TikTok. And I definitely didn't say you need to know how to make everything. Sometimes we tell ourselves that we're not ready when the truth is we're just nervous. And I'm going to raise my hand on that. That's me. Being nervous about your first customer doesn't automatically mean you need another 3 months of practice. Because if you're not ready, that means you haven't tested your product and you don't know whether it will hold up. Nervous is you've tested it, you're comfortable with the quality, but you're scared somebody might pay you for it. And that's an oxymoron, because we want people to pay us for it, but we're scared when they say yes. So we need to get out of our comfort zone and be ready. We can be nervous, but we want to be ready. You also don't need a full catalog before you can make your first sale. One product is enough to get started. If there's one product you've learned to make well and you've tested it, that's enough for us to start talking about what selling could look like. So which one sounds more like you right now? So we're going to drop A, B, or C in the chat. I'm still practicing and learning. That's A. B, I've made and tested something I'd be comfortable selling. Or C, I think I'm ready. I'm just nervous to put it out there. So let me know what you're feeling in the chat right now, how you're feeling. And I can comfortably say B for me, because I'll put it out there. I'm going to wear it. I'm going to do it. All right. I see C. I see B. So we're gonna already we want to be in the B category. All right. So you don't have to know everything. You need to know what you're selling. We're not trying to become experts at every custom product before we make our first dollar. We're building confidence in something we can make well. And that brings us to the next question. You're ready to start selling. What exactly are you going to sell? Because I make custom stuff is not much of a starting plan. And I can say in the beginning, I was like, oh, yeah, I make custom stuff. And when someone asked, I'd rattle up a whole list of things. But I've learned how to scale it down so that my customer knows exactly what I'm selling. So you've decided you're ready to move beyond practicing. Now we need to answer a pretty important question: is what are you going to sell? What does that look like for you? So one of the easiest things to do when you first start custom crafting is get excited about everything you can make. When I first started, everything I saw on YouTube, I wanted to learn how to make. I did vinyl shirts, I did vinyl mugs, then I moved to sublimation because the items looked so vibrant and beautiful. And then I ordered DTF and UV DTF prints. I was all over the place, no real direction, and I didn't master any one craft. The one thing I would do differently if I was starting Purposely Crafted again is I wouldn't buy every blank I thought would make a cute custom product. I did that. I saw something and I thought, ooh, that would be cute for if it was customized. So I bought it. But what eventually I learned was that just because I think something would look great as a product doesn't mean my customer wants to buy it. So today I would rather buy one, create a sample, see how people respond, and let customer demand tell me whether I need more. I hear you, Giselle. And there are times when I'm still out there looking and I have to rein myself in. All right, so we want to start with what you can make well. For your first sale, I don't want you worrying about having a huge product catalog. Start with something you've already learned to make well. Ask yourself, have I made it successfully? Have I tested it? Am I comfortable with the quality? Can I make it again? Can I get the materials when I need them? If the answer is yes, that's something worth considering as a starting product. And I'm not saying it has to be, but that's one that's worth considering, especially being able, if you've done all the first four, but you can't get the materials when you need them, then it's not going to help you if a customer says, yes, I want that. So we want to think about it from a customer side. If I tell you I customize anything, just tell me what you want. Now I've made you figure it out, figure out what I sell. Customers need to be able to understand quickly, what do you make, who and what is it for, and how can I get one? And then remember, more products isn't the only way we overwhelm ourselves. We can do it with designs too. Start with a few things you can confidently show, then pay attention to what people actually respond to. That's another thing I learned, was to stop choosing everything based on what I liked. I'm not necessarily my customer. So you're going to let demand help you grow. So you don't have to predict everything your customers will ever want before you start. Start small enough that you can pay attention to what they're actually asking for. If people keep asking for hoodies, that's information. If nobody touches the product you thought was going to be your bestseller, that's information too. Neither requires buying 30 more blanks. You're going to make and test, show, listen, sell, learn, and then expand. All right. So if you had to choose one product to sell right now, what would it be? Drop it in the comments, in the chat. Not five, not the whole catalog, just one. And if I had to sell anything outside of DTF, I would sell tumblers all day. But I love a good, oh, notebooks. You use UV DTF, Gwen? I bought some UV DTF prints, but guess what? They're still sitting on the shelf, waiting for me to do something with them. So my tip is to start narrow. Let your customers help you grow. Ooh, someone said Libby cups. Oh yeah. See, maybe I should put mine on a Libby cup because I got them sitting over here. They're just looking at me, waiting for me to do something with those prints. You don't need a craft store in your house before you make your first sale. Start with something you can make, show to the people, and pay attention to the market, what people want. I think we all have either a box or two or three of things we just bought because it looked great when we thought about it and now it's collecting dust. Okay, so now we've identified something we can confidently sell. So before we decide what we're going to charge for it, there is something we need to know first. What does it actually cost you to make it? Because money coming in doesn't automatically mean you're making money. Okay, now before we can even think about what to charge, there's another number you need to understand first. What did it cost you to make the product? Yeah, bins. Yes. If I could show you this space, you would be like, "Girl, stop it. You're a craftaholic. You have too many things." So your blank plus your transfer is not your total cost. So one of the easiest mistakes to make when you're starting out is looking at your shirt and your transfer and thinking that's what the product costs you. There are other things that went into getting that finished shirt into your customer's hand. And depending on the product and how you run your business, your costs may include things like blanks, the transfer, shipping, packaging, payment and selling fees, other materials. And then there's one that beginners often forget: your time. Your time has value. You had to communicate with the customer, prepare the order, make the product, package it, and getting it to them. So you have to include your time as part of the cost of your items. Revenue and profit are not the same thing. So if a customer gives you $25 for a shirt, that does not mean you made $25. That money that came into your business, that's money that came into your business. But your business also spent money to make that shirt. So until you know what the product cost you, you really don't know how much money you made from the sale. Now, please don't decide what you should charge simply by looking at what somebody else charges. Someone else may be selling a shirt for $15. That doesn't tell you what they paid for the blank, the transfer, bulk rates, equipment, fees, time, or whether they're making a profit at all. A competitor's price tells you what they charge. It doesn't tell you what your business needs to charge. So someone else's price is not your price. I mean, you could ask to kind of gauge as a beginner what people are charging, because you don't want to, if you're in an area, say a small area, you don't want to be charging $50 for a shirt, and then someone else is charging for that same shirt, say 30, where you could have charged 30 and still made a profit. So you don't want to um, overcharge for your items. So it's always good to see what the market can bear, but you don't want their price to be your price. And cheap doesn't automatically mean competitive. So when you're new, it can be tempting to think, if I charge less than everybody else, people will buy from me. Getting orders isn't the goal if every order costs you money. You can be busy and still not be profitable. Let me say that again. You can be busy and still not be profitable. We're trying to build a business, not an expensive hobbies that customers help us pay for. So this is business. It's not, if you want to do a hobby, that's great. But if you're trying to build a business, you need to make sure you understand your numbers. All right, true or false? If I sell a shirt for $25 and the blank cost me five, I made $20 in profit. So the answer to that is false. Not necessarily. The blank isn't the only cost associated with producing and selling the shirt. Correct, Gwen. Yes, false. All right. So my tip again is know your numbers before you name your price. Don't pick a price because it sounds good. Picking one out the thin air and say, "Whoo, that's a great price." Don't pick one because someone else charges it. And don't pick one because you're afraid your customers won't pay more. First, you need to understand what it actually costs you to do business. And then you can price accordingly. All right, so now we've got something we're comfortable with selling. We understand we need to know our costs before we decide what to charge. But there's another piece beginners sometimes overlook. If someone sees your work and says, I want one, what happens next? How do they actually buy from you? So imagine this. You post your shirt. You post this, say, I post this shirt right here, made this for myself for my birthday, and someone comments, I want one. Great. We've got someone interested, but now what? How do they tell you their size? How do they choose their design or color? How do they pay you? How do they know when they'll receive it? If you don't know the answers to those questions, your customer probably doesn't either. Somebody saying that's cute is not a sale. Somebody saying I need one is not necessarily a sale either. We want to make it easy for that interested person to actually become a paying customer. Yes, a website would be great, but if you don't have one set up, then you don't have a place to send them to. So then you're spinning your wheels. So you have to have a path forward. Because your customers shouldn't have to hunt through your social media trying to figure out how to order. They need a clear next step. And that may be an online store, like we're saying, a product link, ordering form, an invoice, or another established ordering method. Um, when I did the graduation basketball, because I don't have Shopify and I have Stand Store, and the customer that wanted the basketball was on a cruise, I just created an invoice and sent the invoice. She was already hesitant about paying online. I guess she had some bad experiences putting her card out there to make sure it was safe. So I had to reassure her that her information would be safe and wasn't going to get get out in the atmosphere. I mean, through no fault of mine, but nothing is 100% guaranteed. We something can happen with our bank at any time, as we all know personally. So I had to reassure her that going through my site and paying through that invoice would work, because I could have sent her to the link that I created in Stan Store and then emailed her to get everything. But I wanted to make her experience shopping with me for the first time as seamless as possible, because she was already feeling apprehensive. So whatever method you choose, you need to know what you're asking your customers to do next. So instead of DM me if interested and then figuring out the entire transaction inside of 47 messages, start thinking about creating a consistent way for someone to move from interested to ordering. Think about what you need to know before you start making the product, because chasing someone afterwards and saying, hey, wait, now what size did you want again, isn't the experience we're going for. We want to make this seamless for our customers. And I don't want you to build your airplane mid-flight. So before you tell people you're ready to take orders, you also need to know how you're going to accept payment. An order isn't complete just because someone says they want one. You need a defined payment process. Your customer also needs to understand what happens after they order. When should they expect their item? How will they receive it? What happens with customization details? And how will you communicate updates? So in my instance, I emailed her. She sent me over, she texted me all of the pictures. And once I had a mock up, I sent it back for her approval. And even after printing her mock up, I didn't like the colors. It looked different when I printed it than it was on my screen. So I sent her a picture and said, this is one, and then this is another choice, and gave her the choice, because I didn't want to send her something that she wasn't going to be happy with for her grandchild. So you don't want to build the airplane while the customer is sitting in the airplane. You want to have everything built before your first customer reaches out to you, even if it is, the simple order form and you're getting all of their information. And then you want to make sure you have your payment methods in place so that they can pay you and you can start making the order. So if someone messaged you right now and said, I want to order one at whatever it is, dot, 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 what would you know the next step? Yes or no? Hey, Gia's Design, how are you? I see you just jumped in. So if someone messaged you right now, I'm going to message you and say, I want to order one of your whatever it is that you have. Would you know what the next step would be for your customer? Do you have processes in place? All right. Gwen said no. All right. AJ said yes. Giselle. So if you said no, that's okay. Now you know something that you need to work on before you start promoting heavily. And then if you said yes, that's great. You have processes in place. Just make sure you test them and make sure they make sense and are easy for the customers. Yeah, got to tighten, got to. And I try to test mine if I put something new in my Stan Store just to see if it works. Okay, Danielle said, okay, you send a jot form, and that's so. And but do you have your other things in place, like how they need to pay? Do you have that set up in place for them as well? So my tip to you is just don't just tell people what you sell, tell them how to buy it. Every potential customer needs a clear next step. The easier you make it for someone to understand what to do next, the less confusion you create for them and for yourself. Oh, I didn't know that you can pay in a jot form. Did anyone else know that? That's good information to know. Okay, so now we have our product in a way for someone to buy it. And there's one little problem. You can have a great product, you know your cost, you have the easiest ordering process in the world, but none of that matters if nobody knows you make it. So we've got to start showing people your work. And one of the easiest traps to fall into is telling yourself you're going to start promoting your business when everything is ready. When I have the perfect logo, when I have more products, when my social media looks better, when I have professional pictures, when I have a website, when I feel more confident, and the list goes on and on and on. We can come up with every excuse in the world. And while you're waiting for all of that to happen, nobody knows you're in business. You don't need a perfect brand to start letting people know what you do. So, do you remember that test shirt that I challenged you to make last class? So, once you tested it and you're confident in the quality, that shirt can start doing another job for you. Show it, take pictures of it, wear it, talk about it, let people see you using what you make. And your sample isn't just proof that you can make the product, it can also show a potential customer what you can make for them. Sometimes your first marketing tool is simply wearing something that you made. So if someone asks, "Where did you get that shirt?" Now you have the opportunity to say, "I made it." And that's a very different conversation from cold selling to somebody, because I'm about to show my football designs that I made of my son with his football team and all the teams when we go out. We have game Saturday. I wasn't ready yesterday, but I'm gonna be ready for that next game. So you can share finished products, your samples, behind the scene moments, new designs you're testing, packaging and order, and your own experience learning and building. Because they don't always need to see a picture that says buy this. Sometimes they need to see what you do, because you can't assume that people know what you sell just because they follow you. If you make custom shirts, say that. If you take sports family orders, say that. If you personalize products, say that. The clearer that the clearer you are about what you sell, the easier it is for someone to remember you when they need it. And there's something that I learned that I want to save someone else from taking personally. Your friends and family may not automatically become your customers. And that is so true. They may support you, they may like your post, they may even buy similar products somewhere, but then they'll go and buy similar products somewhere else. And that can hurt. But that doesn't determine whether you have a viable business. So, when was the last time you showed somebody something that you made? Because if no one has seen it, we can't be surprised that nobody has asked to buy it. And you don't have to post everywhere every day. You don't have to give people, you just have to give people opportunities to see what you make. Don't spend all your energy convincing people who you know. Learn how to reach people who need what you offer. All right. So now that you showed your first work, so people have the opportunity to discover what you do. But if you're serious about getting your first sale, I don't want your entire business strategy to be, well, I posted it, now I wait, because that's not going to work. Sometimes you have to intentionally create opportunities for people to buy. Put yourself and your products in places where the right people have an opportunity to say yes. And that is what I mean to pursue your first sale. I don't mean chasing your friends and family around asking them to please buy something from you, because your first customer doesn't have to be a stranger on TikTok. So think about communities you're already connected to: school communities, sports teams, families, churches, organizations, co-workers, community groups, all of that. You're not asking everybody you know to buy something. You're paying attention to where there may already be a need. If someone needs shirts for a family reunion, there's an opportunity. Sports parents want shirts with their athlete's name and number, opportunity. Church group needs shirts for an event, opportunity. You're looking for problems your product can solve, not people you can pressure. Yeah, you got to show that stuff off, Giselle. Show it. I'm about to sublimate a little tote bag for my son's games to carry my stuff in. I'm gonna be blinged out with sports stuff next game. So you're gonna start. You want to give people a reason to buy, and this doesn't mean fake urgency. It means connecting your product to something happening in the customer's life. Events, seasons, celebrations, school activities, sports, holidays, birthdays, organizations. A customer usually isn't sitting around thinking, you know what I need today? A random custom t shirt. They're thinking, my son's first football game is Saturday, or we're having a family reunion, or it's Teacher Appreciation Week. So, those are the events they're thinking about. So, you need to position yourself so that you are ready when they're looking to fill those opportunities with products. So, showing your work and offering something for sale are not always the same thing. If I post a picture of a shirt and say, look what I made, people may admire it and keep scrolling. But if you compare that with football season is here, I'm now taking orders for personalized sports family shirts. Now people understand, oh, I can buy this. Sometimes people aren't buying because you haven't told them something is available to buy. They just see your nice shirt or your nice tumbler or hat and they just think it's cute, but they don't know that you sell it. And your first sale may come from someone who already knows you or someone who knows somebody who knows you. The goal isn't my first customer must come organically from a stranger on social media. The goal is get experience serving a real paying customer well. That first order teaches you things practice can't. Communication, expectations, deadlines, quality control, delivery, and what happens after somebody says yes. But don't give oh, give me 1 second. I think my son just showed up home. All right. I'm so sorry about that. Okay, so don't give everything away. Don't get excited about getting your first customer that you price yourself into the ground just so somebody will buy. A $5 sale that costs you $8 to fulfill isn't a business milestone. The goal isn't just to make a sale. The goal is is to learn how to make a sale that makes sense for your business. And you can expect some no's. You can show your work, make an offer, tell people how to order, and nobody buys that day. That doesn't automatically mean nobody wants your products, or that you're bad at this, or that your business isn't going to work. Sometimes the offer wasn't right. Sometimes the audience wasn't right. And sometimes the timing wasn't right. And then other times, sometimes they saw it and simply weren't ready to buy. One post without a sale is not enough information to decide your business has failed. Okay, so which one is actually an offer? A or B? Look at this shirt I made. Or B, personalized football family shirts are now available. Here's how to order. Correct. B. All right. So, my tip is don't chase people, create opportunities. Show your work. Tell people what you're offering. Put it in front of people who may actually need it. Give them a clear way to buy and let them make the decision. All right, so now what happens when someone says yes? You've practiced, you've tested, you've shown your work, you made an offer, and then your phone goes off. Hi, I'd like to place an order. Yes, we got our first customer. But before we start celebrating and running to the heat press, what happens next? So that first order can make you so excited that you immediately want to start making something. But before you make anything, make sure you understand exactly what your customer is ordering. Depending on the product, that could include product, the size, the color, quantity, design, or customization details, when they need it, and how they'll receive it. Don't assume, confirm. A 5-minute conversation now can prevent a much bigger problem later. Before you say yes to every request, you need to make sure you can actually fulfill it. Don't just take it because you're so excited to get a customer, because if you can't actually fulfill what they need, you don't have access to the materials, you can't realistically meet their deadline. Can you actually produce what they're asking for? I mean, it's very exciting to get that first sale, but don't want to let that excitement make you make promises that you can't deliver. Sometimes the correct business answer really is no, I can't do that, or I can't have it ready by Friday. That's better than taking the money and disappointing the customer. Yes, A did sound like a crafter. So after the details, the payment, production, quality, and follow up. Those are the things that you need to pay attention to. So remember, you should have already decided how someone's going to pay you. So don't confuse an inquiry with an order. Someone saying, how much is this, isn't necessarily an order. Someone saying, I'm going to get one next week, that's not an order either. Not necessarily. Your business needs to know when an order officially becomes an order. Once the order details and your established requirements are handled, then you move into production. For me, I don't, until it's paid in full, I don't start production. Even if you pay the retainer fee, I'm not going to buy any supplies or anything until the order has been paid. So everything that we've been learning throughout this series has been preparing you for this moment. When you finish making the order, don't immediately put it in the bag and hand it to the customer. Look at it. Is it the correct product, the correct size, correct customization? Is the transfer properly adhered? Is the item clean? Does it meet the quality you promised? And before you accept the order, you should know how that finished product is getting from you to them. Once a customer gets their order, the relationship doesn't have to end. Follow up, make sure everything went well. If they're happy, ask for feedback and potentially a review, testimonial, or photo with permission. That first customer can help create confidence for your second customer. So these are the steps. So someone says yes, now what? You want to get the order details, confirm you can fulfill it, accept payment, go into production, quality check, pick up, delivery, or shipping, however, whatever plans you made, and then you're going to follow up. Now, this is not your complete business system. I simply want you to see that there should be a system. The goal is to know what happens next before your customer says yes. So, my tip is don't wait for the order to build the process. Have the process built before your first order. Now, and eventually you're going to hand that first order to your paying customer. That first sale is going to feel so good. Celebrate it. You earned that moment. but I don't want you to think the goal was simply to get one person to buy one shirt. Your first sale is not the finish line, it's information. So your first customer teaches you something practice can't. You want to look at things that actually worked well. Customer communication, your expectations, deadlines, quality, your process, the actual customer experience. So you need to look at that. So if all of that went, if those are good things, that's great. So after the order is finished, you want to take a minute and ask yourself what went well. You don't want to get so focused on what needs fixing that you overlook what you actually did right. And then next, you're going to ask yourself, what made this harder than it needed to be? Because a problem doesn't automatically mean you're bad at business. Sometimes it means your business just showed you where it needs a better process. And then finally, this is the customer experience. So you may want to ask for a review, testimonial, or a picture of them with the product with when appropriate, and getting permission before using their words or photos in your marketing. Thank you. Now, this is one you don't want to spend your first sale 3 times. And so, when that first payment hits, remember what we talked about earlier. Money coming into your business is not automatically money you get to spend. Some of that money may need to cover your costs. Some may need to go back into the business, and hopefully, some becomes profit. Treat business money like business money. One sale proves somebody was willing to pay you. Now, your job is to learn from what that experience has taught you and build something you can do again. So, you want to make, sell, learn, improve, repeat. That's how you start from moving from somebody who knows how to make DTF products to someone who's actually building a DTF business. So, you want to pay attention again to what worked, what didn't, what your customer experienced, and what you need to do differently next time. So my tip again, don't just celebrate the sale, you want to study it. So, this is your final challenge. Over these last 5 classes, I've given you a foundation, but information sitting in a notebook doesn't build a business. You've got your pen, your paper, your crayon, and it's full of notes on that paper. Now I want you to do something with them. So we've reached the end of our 5 class DTF series. So I'm not giving you another challenge that keeps you practicing. This time, I want you to take one step forward that actually is putting your work in front of a potential customer. So your challenge is not to get a sale, because I can't control whether someone buys from you, and neither can you. But what you can control is whether you give someone the opportunity to buy. So I want you to choose your product, not 5, not your entire catalog, remember, just one. Know your cost, decide how someone will order and pay, take a good photo of your product, make one clear offer, post, share it with the appropriate group or community. Wear it, talk about it, whatever makes sense for your business. And but don't just say, "Look at what I made." You want to tell people what you're offering and who it's for and how to order. And then I want you to pay attention to what happens. Because whatever happens, don't immediately label it good or bad. It's information. Now you got 7 days, not 7 days to be perfect, 7 days to put one tested product in front of people with a clear opportunity to buy it. And I want to know what happened, whether you made a sale or if you didn't. Come back to this video and leave me a comment or send me your results and tell me what you offered and what happened and what you learned. So before we close, I want to tell you something that's coming next. Um, as you know, over these last 5 classes, I've helped you understand what you need to move from thinking about DTF to actually getting started. I've given you the foundation, but there's a big difference between, knowing what to do and sitting down and doing it. And I know some of you are at the point where you don't need another video or another notebook full of information. You need help actually putting the pieces together. So I'm working on something called your first 30 days in DTF. And it's being created for the person who's ready to move from practicing to confidently selling their work with a simple offer, profitable pricing, and a way for customers to order, and a repeatable process for handling those first orders. Now, you don't need a huge following, and you don't need a fancy website, and you don't need every piece of equipment, and you definitely don't need to know everything. But you do need a clear starting point and a plan, and someone to support you while you put that plan into action. So I'm putting the finishing touches on it now. So I'm not opening up for registration tonight. But if you've been following this series and you're thinking, okay, I'm ready to stop just practicing and start building, stay close. Your first 30 days in DTF is coming next. So that's why I said you don't need everything to start, because that's what your first 30 days in DTF is designed to help you build. It's designed to help you build on that starting point. All right, so this is the foundation. This was class 1. You chose your path. Class 2, your starter supplies. Class 3, ordering your transfers. Class 4 was pressing your shirt. And today you're moving towards your first sale. That is the foundation. Now you've got to build on it. So your job isn't to build someone else's DTF business. Your job is to build yours, one purposely crafted step at a time. All right, so now before anybody tries to sneak out, I told you at the beginning to grab your paper, your pen, your pencil, your crayon, and pay attention, because we had a giveaway at the end. And since this is our final class of this series, I'm not going to make these questions easy. So, question number 1. I told you there's a difference between not being ready and being blank. What was the other word? There's a difference between not being ready and being blank. Yep, not profit. It's a feeling. Yep, not prepared. Correct, Gwen, nervous. That is the correct answer. The correct answer is nervous. So Gwen, if you can drop your email in the chat so that I can email you your giveaway, your information to get your giveaway. All right, question number 2. You've got another chance. I said somebody else's price tells you what? No, not nothing. That's close, but that's not what I'm looking for. Somebody else's price tells you one thing. What does it tell you? Danielle, that is close. I'm going to take that answer because the answer is what they charge. So you said what they're selling at is basically what they charge. So someone else's price is that all that tells you is what they charge. That doesn't tell you what it costs for their blank, their transfer, their labor, their packaging, any of that. That just tells you what they charge. And I can just tell you an example. Where my mother goes to the senior center, there's another vendor that does shirts, and she is selling hers for $15. And, I would love to get some of their business, but for some of their auxiliary groups, but I'm not going to change my price. Now, if she's for one of the shirts, I believe she's just taking their same design and going to order it. I was providing them an updated, a refreshed design, but it's totally up to them. I'm not feeling a certain kind of way. I gave them a proposal, and either they go with it or they don't. So Danielle, if you can drop your email in the chat, that would be great. All right, question number 3, last question. Pursuing your first sale does not mean. So let me give you a clue. I said we're not chasing people, we're creating what? We're not chasing people. What are we creating? Nope, not a sale. Yes, Gwen, that is correct. Opportunity. We're creating opportunities, putting ourselves in a space for opportunities. You probably have good notes, Giselle. You just might have missed a few things. So congratulations to our winners, and thank you everyone who joined me, not only tonight, but throughout this series. If you missed any of my classes 1 through 4, they're available here on my YouTube channel, so you can go back and catch up. Don't forget about your final challenge. Within the next 7 days, take one tested product and create an opportunity for someone to buy it. I want to hear what happens. And I want to thank you for trusting me to be part of the beginning of your DTF journey. Let me stop sharing my screen here. All right. I want you to keep learning, keep building, and most importantly, keep taking action, one purposely crafted step at a time. I will talk to you real soon. I'll stay on for a moment. Thank you so much. Oh, that is so nice, Gwen. And this, I will, once I get this downloaded, this will be uploaded into my YouTube channel. There's a DTF series playlist. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. I appreciate you guys coming on, and thank you, thank you, thank you. So thank you guys for joining me tonight, and I will give you back the rest of your Sunday evening. Have a good one. Bye-bye.